Okay, so if you're here, you probably watched our breakdown of Technicolor. If not, I'll put the link up here somewhere. I wanted to make this video to cover some of the things that I didn't have time to put in that video, some of the research and footnotes, and also to thank the people who helped us make that video. In this case, that would be Eastman House. They're a museum that you can go to, you can find them online, and they were really generous with their time, their knowledge, and also a lot of the images that you see in the video. And I also want to thank the Smithsonian, of course, which let us talk to their curator, also very knowledgeable, and get in there and film that giant Technicolor camera and the gorgeous ruby slippers. Got to film those ruby slippers myself, so I think basically I'm like a legendary Hollywood cameraman now because I've shot those ruby slippers. Just a theory. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's watch the video, and I'll tell you what we had to leave out and what we really wanted to put in. So yeah, obviously this video is centered around Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. I have to tell you that I'm a person who believed some of these misconceptions before I started making this video. I may have known that it wasn't the first Technicolor video, but I didn't know the degree to which Technicolor shaped the movie. And I did think that there was some sort of technological breakthrough there, but it was largely a marketing breakthrough. They really sold this movie as a Technicolor movie because it cost them a lot of money to make it that way. But there were other movies beforehand or in contemporaneous production that also used Technicolor. So this is an important thing to clear up.
Made it work to exactly why it took over the movies, to the way in which the technology shaped the look of the 20th century.
And this whole video just sprang from my curiosity, why does Technicolor look like that? And it turned out to be more complex than I thought.
First Technicolor movie. Not even close. You might know that, but
yeah, so sorry to slam the Maryland Science Center here, but you know, what are you gonna do? They said it. Okay, so please look at Barbara Flueckiger's website because it shows you how complex all this color theory is, and also how much people who know about photography care about the depth and history of their discipline. There are so many little gradations that are fascinating to look at. Okay, I have to tell you one thing I left out about Kalmus and Comstock. Before they got into Technicolor, they developed other camera nerd projects, and one of their early projects was actually a speed camera, like the kind that catches speeders on the road, and apparently it worked. This is the early 1900s, but they weren't able to sell it to any police departments, probably because they didn't understand it. But could have been a whole different 20th century if they'd stuck with that speed camera idea instead of moving on to Technicolor. Oh yes, this is Flowers and Trees, which is so cool looking. I'm not a gamer myself, but there's this game out called Cuphead now that is inspired by the animation styles of these 1930s Technicolor movies. You should look it up on YouTube because they have a really good emulation of this animation style. It looks great, and it makes you understand animation better. Okay, so this is my Technicolor breakdown. This is the full page of that Technicolor diagram that I showed. Now already there's a lot of different methods. So when I talk about 2-strip and 3-strip here, I'm kind of condensing a bunch of different processes into one most significant step from 2-strip to 3-strip. An analogy that I thought of was if in the year 2100 they were covering the iPhone, they wouldn't cover iPhone, iPhone 4, iPhone 4S, iPhone 5, iPhone 5S, or whatever the proper gradations are. They would just say there were Blackberries, then there were iPhones, then there were Android. They would kind of give you the bigger picture. And that's what I'm doing here with Technicolor. I'm kind of giving you the bigger picture of the switch to 3-strip. But there were all sorts of processes within that you can look up and see the differences between them, both in the technology and in the results. And so for these simulations, it was fun because in After Effects I went through and I did actually properly tint the things with cyan, tint the things with green, and then actually layer them on top of one another. So I didn't just replace it with the original picture at the end. This is a proper combination of all those colors, and that kind of helped me get a grasp on it too, to have to do it the right way. That helped me understand how this stuff actually worked, along with the help of the people that I talked to. Yeah, so that little Lego guy is like that. Generally, the key, which I show there, I heard generally it stopped being used after 1945. One of the reasons they would use it is because of blurring. Also, because it was really hard to get the 3 strips in exactly the right place. So sometimes they'd be just a little bit off, a micrometer off, or what we would call a pixel today off. And so a key could help kind of like settle them into place, lock them into place over that black and white image.
World to a color one. The set was actually painted sepia tone, so the same Technicolor process.
Yes, I was amazed. Ryan at the Smithsonian told me about this. That was the first time I'd heard about it, and I thought that was an amazing piece of trivia there. Even though they did have mats at the time, which is what I do here with my hand in the little box, they painted this room sepia because that was the easiest way to use the camera continuously for the shot. So I thought that was just really crazy, and you can see it if you watch it. You can see that it's a different camera filming that scene.
This is one of the cameras that was used to film The Wizard of Oz. It weighs 400 to 500
Yes, and here's the gloriously large Technicolor camera. Ryan was super smart, really helped me understand this process better. My greatest pleasure, though, was enjoying the historical irony of filming this gigantic camera with my tiny Sony camera. Literally it's this big. I'm using it to film this right now. And I'm filming this thing that the best filmmakers in the world, in history too, had to use. And I'm able to film in 4K, grading at will with just this tiny little camera. So it's just amazing to me and bizarre to get to do that. Yeah, and these cameras were super loud. They had to really adjust around that. That's Jimmy Stewart, clown right there. The press materials say it was always Jimmy's dream to play a clown. I never knew that about him. I hadn't really heard about that movie, even though it's famous. But so yeah, this is a great scene. Eastman House gave me this strip and these prints from Singing in the Rain, and it was really fun to match them up with the scenes in the movie.
It also shaped the world that they chose to film. Lie number 3. This isn't the real Dorothy. It's Judy Garland's body double. She wore specially designed clothes and makeup.
Yeah, so Bobby Cochet, she's really cool. We couldn't find a photo that we could license in time for this video, but if you look her up, you can find some pictures of her testing out different dresses, I think. And there's also one of her with the body double for the Scarecrow. And it's really fun to look at and compare because Judy Garland as Dorothy is so iconic, and then you see this other person who looks a little like her but isn't her. It's really fun to see. So yeah, when the slippers were originally silver. I know that a lot of the people who think The Wizard of Oz is about the fight between the gold and the silver standard point to these silver slippers as evidence of that theory about the work. I asked Ryan about that. He was sort of uncertain exactly where that theory is right now. There are some people apparently who don't believe it. Some who do think it's true that it was about the fight over the gold standard. But that was a little too much historical baggage to weigh in on this video, so we just left it out. But you can look it up and you can find a lot of information about there.
And sometimes told directors what to do.
So here's Natalie Kalmus. Here I show the credits for Gone with the Wind. She actually fought a lot on that movie because she wanted more extreme colors. She didn't like the muted browns that were being used. So she could definitely be difficult to tangle with sometimes, which I think makes her interesting because it shows the power of the Technicolor company that she could go around and basically tell directors what to do on their own movies. Because Technicolor was that powerful and using color was that new that they were, ready to believe her.
Technicolor had its own processing facilities and its own camera crew that continued Natalie Cowles'.
And Technicolor really endured for a while. Ultimately, it was ease, but it was also expensive, the process that doomed the traditional process that we recognize and that we describe here. It was just really pricey to process these films, to do that dye transfer process. And so the company changed. Technicolor is definitely still around today, but it is a different company, and it doesn't use that 3-strip process. There are some minor exceptions of when the 3-strip process has been used after The Godfather Part 2, which is about to come up here. There it is. So after that, there were some minor exceptions of like revivals or restorations in which they did do a 3-strip process, but for the most part, it's gone. So it's fair enough to say that it doesn't exist.
Okay, what are all these dust particles?
Yeah, and then today we have this whole world of digital color grading, besides me complaining about the dust clouds of trap code particular plugin in Stranger Things. It was kind of get its start in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And then in The Aviator, Martin Scorsese actually graded the scenes digitally to echo the Technicolor process that was used in the year in which the movie was set. So he has, in the early scenes of the movie, he has a 2-strip looking thing. In the later years, he has a 3-strip looking thing. To my modern eyes, it doesn't look like they did that great a job with it, but that's up for your judgment whether you think it really accurately simulates the Technicolor look. I think because Kalmus wasn't there and the Technicolor company wasn't there, it's more of an homage than an exact emulation. And yeah, and that's it. I've talked through the end of the video, but it, also brought us forward to this world of digital color grading, which is what exists today. It's what I'll use on this video. And it's very different. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video to kind of get into some of the things that we had to leave out. The world of Technicolor is way more complex than this, and this was 10 minutes long. So the outro to that video was me kind of talking through why this video had to be so long, because I went in and I said, I want to just like use After Effects to show people how 3-strip and 2-strip worked. And that ended up being a chunk of it, but it was way more complex than that, which is really cool. It's not just a technological story. It's a cultural story of this company that had a lot of power and these people who were learning how to use color. And that's why I think makes it interesting. So thank you for watching. Please take this opportunity to nerd out more on Technicolor. Visit Barbara Flukager's website. Visit Eastman House, both in person and online, whatever you can do. And if you can't do that, if you aren't interested in learning any more Technicolor details, look up one of these old movies and just marvel at them. Check out Singing in the Rain, see The Adventures of Robin Hood, or look up some of the old cartoons. One of the slides that I have in there is from a Woody Woodpecker cartoon that was in Technicolor, and they're gorgeous. They really do have a unique look and a unique use of color that is just wonderful to hang out with for a few hours. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll enjoy it.